All right, so I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's strength and how to get stronger. So basically, there's two main ways to increase your strength. Number one is hypertrophy, which means putting on actual muscle mass, getting bigger, getting larger, and that leads to overall strength gains. And this has been a tried and true tested method forever. And then the second way, the way that is becoming more popular now in powerlifting communities, strongman communities, and stuff like that, is basically neurological adaptation. So what that really is when you see a lot of people doing singles, doubles, and triples, it's getting your neurological system and your nervous system used to moving and carrying that heavier weight. So basically, you're taking, if you want to train neurological adaptation, what you want to do is you want to take, maybe 90% of your max weight and do your working sets with that. Maybe it's 5 doubles at 90% or 5 triples at 85%, something like that, where you're constantly training at the top end of your capacity in terms of weight. And the more acclimated you get to doing that, the more adaptation your nervous system will have, and you'll be able to get stronger without putting on a ton of weight and a ton of size. Your body will just be more efficient in all your movements, whether it's the squat, the deadlift, the bench, or whatever. But you'll also be able to just create more force with the same amount of muscle because your nervous system is able to contract that muscle better, is essentially what happens. So basically, when you want to train hypertrophy, you're going the exact opposite. You're going to go a higher rep range. You're going to go, 6 to 12, 5 to 12. And that's great. You're going to put on size as long as you're eating and sleeping sufficiently. And you'll put on size, you'll get strong. But what tends to happen is you'll get pretty strong at doing volume workouts where you're doing sets of 8 and 12 and stuff like that. And you'll be able to progressively increase those numbers. But when you go to test your true 1 rep max, your number isn't going to be much higher than it was when you were doing sets of 8. Where it's the exact opposite if you're training for neurological adaptation and training a lot of singles, doubles, and triples. So what I typically like to do, my main goal in the gym is to get stronger. It's not to be a model. It's not for anything like that. It's just to be strong. So what I typically do is I format my programs with a decent amount of volume and then a good amount of heavy singles, heavy doubles, heavy triples in it. So I'll do 3 days, typically where I'm doing 5x5s with usually 2 compound movements, 1 lower body compound movement, 1 press. So I'll do 5x5s on bench, 5x5s on squat, and then I'll do 2 accessory movements. And that'll be my day. I'll do that 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on what my program is calling for. And by doing that, I'm able to train a decent amount of volume where I'll be able to get good hypertrophy gains. I'll be training heavy enough where I'll get neurological adaptation. But when I've done that, it still left me a little bit to be desired when I was maxing out. I felt like my max wasn't so much higher than my 5x5 as much as it should have been. So what I did, I added in an extra day, a 4th day to my cycle, to my program. And what I do on that day is I train mostly heavy singles, or I'll train heavy triples or heavy doubles. And I'll use that day strictly for the neurological adaptation and getting stronger. I'll use the other 3 days still for some neurological adaptation, but more for the hypertrophy and strength building.